poetry, radio, versed. It's all about the D. Desire, discipline, dedication. I know what you were thinking, savages, but that ain't it. Let's go.
This is Mr. Aubs. Bring something beautiful out of the brokenness.
It's King Moosa, artivist. I'm going to lead with art.
Welcome, welcome, and welcome. I am James Hamilton, and this is Versed, Season 1, Episode 6. Versed is here weekly, shining a light on Midwest poets and artists from what we like to call the hub of Midwest poetry, Rockford, Illinois. The WBM studios are located inside the basement of the Mendelssohn Center for the Performing Arts. In the studio with me today, I have verse producer, cultural reference, and poet, Mr. Savvy Magoo. How you doing today, Paul?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. So what we do here on Versed is I bring two guests on and we just kind of have a conversation, chop it up a little bit. But what the guests do not know is that there is a common thread that runs between the guests, and there's a reason why I paired the two of you together today to talk to me. Keep that in mind during the show. We'll revisit it more toward the end. You know, you guys could take a guess as to what that common thread was between the two of you. I could tell you that none of the guests so far have gotten it right. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the common thread gets cooked up inside of my head.
Scary place.
which can be a scary place. No question.
I haven't even been able to guess it either.
No, and you've tried really hard. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm not the brightest porch light on the street.
We'll talk about that later as well. We will. All right, we'll get on with it. So my guest today, I've got King Moosa from Rockford, Illinois, on my right. And across from me at the table, I've got Aubrey Barnes, or Mr. Aubs, from Rock Island. Why don't we start with Mr. Aubs? Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and go.
Yeah, all the things. Yeah, so first off, thank y'all for having me on this. This is like super cool.
Definitely.
You know, it's always cool when I can just like talk about art and not have to like be artsy the whole time per se, you know. So Mr. Aubs, I'm a storyteller and writer by profession. Also a current grad student for creative arts from a mental wellness meditative standpoint through Maharishi International University. Before that, I got a bachelor's in education. But I'm also the founder and the creative educator of our nonprofit called Young Lions Roar, where we work with schools on an international level, providing workshops on the literary arts for creative expression, mental wellness, and reading, writing development, and just to kind of like open up to the world of creativity. So that's a little bit about what I do. I write books too and all that. I usually am always like bad at like naming all the accolades and all that, but I'm like, let's, you know, we got the main stuff out. So thank y'all again.
And obviously you're a poet, spoken word poet, because you're here. You know,
that
that's
part.
a little bit about what we do. Do you like Moosa or King?
Either.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
How y'all doing? King Moosa, hip-hop artivist. I'm here by way of my poetry. I'm a recording artist as well. I'm a visual artist as well. I do anything to bring awareness to situations, but using a vehicle of art. So a lot of what I do is based around, you know, bringing awareness to certain issues, advocating for things, and people that's usually considered voiceless or usually don't even get a chance to even think about things that affect them. So I try to be their voice along with bringing awareness to my own personal story, which starts this beautiful city of Rockford, Illinois, that ends me dealing with the incarceral system. And so a lot of what I do is based around speaking for those folks, whether it be policy things or just trying to do narrative change in the community and being a great example of what it looks like if we actually poured into our broken links rather than punitive punishment. So.
Yeah, most definitely. Paul Savvy Magoo, our producer here, can attest to this. what I like to say is as artists, I say artists, because a common thread with all the guests come onto the show as a poet, but I'm shocked at how many of the people who have been on here do so many other things.
Yes.
But what I like to say about artists is we are the true first responders. You know, we're out there. You know, I know that term got to be real, you know, modded in after 911 and everything, first responders, police, fire. But, you know, for us, we're out there telling the truth about what's happening in the world. Or I think it's our responsibility to tell what's happening in the world out there. I know you do a little bit of that down in Rock Island, too. Aubrey, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, like I was saying earlier, and it's funny how you said what you said, because, you know, I've been writing poetry since I was like 11 years old. You know, I've been doing that as a profession for the last 10 years. Started profession-wise when I was like 23 or 33, and like my whole thing was like, I just wanted to create because I like creating. But like I think over time, that creativity kind of showed how it can kind of heal communities and stuff like that, you know, and how precious, specifically literary arts of poetry is to kind of like communicating thoughts in like in a prolific way, but also a way that can kind of be understood, you know. So for me, that's just kind of like seeing my bigger role with creativity, you know, kind of using that to kind of like community build, but also to like teach students. I shouldn't say teach students, more so to like open them up to the world of creativity. You know, that's where a lot of my work the last 3 years has kind of been within my program, Young Lions Roar. We work with schools, we work with corporations as well, kind of nonprofit leadership, showing them how poetry just transcends being like art, how we know it. Like a thing that's there, strictly hobby. That's it. It's no bigger than hobby. It's no profession. It's no like life-changing, life-shifting force, you know. But I think especially in our day and age, and then when you look at like times in the past too, you think about the Black arts movement that happened in Chicago, you know. A lot of that was Black creatives, specifically poets who used poetry to provoke thought and conversation. So when I look at all these realms of how poetry was used before me, that's kind of like influenced what I do now as a creative within the realm of serving community. You know, that's how I kind of call it. And community can be whatever it is in its broadest sense. Community could be my neighbor right here. It could be my neighbor 50 miles out from here, but it's whoever I choose to kind of invest my time and energy within and being present in that. And I think in this day and age, I think when you're creative, if you don't use your creativity to talk about the now and here and what's happening now, it's hard to find a creative who doesn't do that. So I think sometimes our work as a creative, we naturally kind of fall into that place of like what we call activism and all that, because we're talking about things that happen around us, like you were saying earlier. I tell my students that like as poets, we're literary historians. Whether you're talking about something set history-wise that happened last week that nobody outside of the Quad Cities will know about, or whether you look at these things that happen from a distance, whether you talk about all that's happening in Gaza, all that's happening in all these different places that probably don't know your presence, but you still talk about it, that's you creating history in a way where like you're influencing people to know about something they don't know about, or to think about things in a different way, however you write that. So for me, I think having that part of being like invested in the community and allowing your art to reflect that is important. Teaching communities and students how to do that too, you know, because we're not going to be here forever, you know. So it's like using that to kind of like teach people how to do that in the now when you're not occupying those spaces anymore. Now, I know y'all saw how Street got hit by gentrification. That was the meanest fight I'd ever seen. I mean, did y'all see how the man moved? Swinging so fast and slow at the same time? I mean, the man hit Street so hard that Street crumbled. Like hammers and drills to concrete, causing cracks to ripple through roads, ribcage as he bled out. Down the boulevard from Pothole, who puff pipe packed with pictures us that had him paranoid of police. Right on bench, next to park where Rose catch the morning shuttle. Rise from quarters of prostitute or pedals as she walked past liquor store, who spilled his beer as he dug through pockets for profit to pay as he break his neck for some of her nectar. This man was so distracted, he ain't noticed new neighbors jumping streets right in front of his son's sidewalk where daughters double-dutched. I mean, Whole Foods came and took off half Street's block.
Swung a punch before pawn shop had time to put on pants. Before apartments had time to pack their belongings. Before Martin Luther King Drive had time to pump his brakes. Before the man aimed and pulled trigger on both playground and basketball courts. Cleaning up street for Target to move in. As he shoot his shot with Starbucks. Covering casualties with condos. Microbreweries. Bookstores who move green and eco-friendly sacks at dispensaries. Forcing street pharmacies to liquidate their departments. Selling their medicinals for 75% off original price. Where property tax swung a mean uppercut that lifted third shift off his feet, but the county building said, hey, at least it discourages violence in street. I mean, you could only beat streets so far as he's willing to dance, and these New York streets, they're gonna get tired of competing at some point. The Chicago streets gonna be so disparate with depression that they're smoking more than one joint, and these LA streets gonna get dug into, like needles to skin of kin who drown in sea without paddles were skid row, but you won't hear that story. Because economics gonna be our late night news talking that bullshit. Talking about how gentrification's dedication brought ties to community, handing out Citizen of the Year plaques of public service and infrastructure for their unity. The economics gonna sweep inequality under the rug to be carried off his casket by cost of living. Leaving of the individual, where gas stations come together to pour out their 40 ounces over streets as churches lift their prayers and sermons while wearing RIP affordable housing t-shirts donated by the black business knew he was finna catch the next eviction notice like stroke. Dying in orange, JJ chicken and fish under eyewitness to the body shop and duplex destination declined by DoorDash, filled with community members, grandpas, grandmas, ghettos who grind to bone to be ground to bone by white, subtle, conservative newcomers who plant flag and ground work party will move her feet before forgetting who she was after moving on up to the east side. Like the Jeffersons, doing her people dirty for families who don't approve of the head nods and knuckle bumps of witchery greets. So you best believe this at the last time we see gentrification beat on streets, and y'all better not miss the next fight.
Moosa, I know
That's
you're
Nina.
out there. Are you working with youth also
Yeah,
in the community?
I work with youth in the community. I work with adults too. Something you said, I reminded me of Nina Simone. Her interview when she was in the kitchen, she was talking to that guy, and she was like it's our duty as artists to record the times, no matter what you do. Whether you sculpting art, you're a poet, you're a writer, rapper, singer, record the times, because this is how they look back and learn. You know, because this is what we do. Like this, it's almost like taking a picture with words. Like it's like, oh, that's what was going on. That's where it comes from. Like, oh, we went from this, and it made us feel like that when that happened. Like you say, like taking that ownership as an artist to want to be that voice for right now. Like, this is what this actually is. Because I was talking to Paul earlier, and he was like, art helps me process.
Yes.
It helps me process things. And I'm like, yeah, me too. That's exactly, I started doing this to help me understand how I was feeling inside of prison and help me like not feel as heavy as I felt. So sometimes I used to write until I felt relieved. Like when I felt relieved, it's like, oh, boom, I could put the pen down. Drenched eyelashes, swollen throat, rusted chain attached to the handcuff on my left wrist. Me and my mother a mental mess. A detective walks in, he says, sorry, Miss Harrington, but transport is here. Please say your final goodbye. We screamed, we yelled, and we cried, all out of fear of an uncertain tomorrow. See, that night, I witnessed the grief from my mother never before seen. I was only 14. I began to play a game with the devil of confusion, DOC. And by the time I came to and realized that I was losing, I was already lost. 17, sitting in Menard, maximum security prison at the bottom of Illinois. And it was so hot there. I remember the walls was sweating, yet I had to learn how to sleep through the most chilling noise, nightmare, screechy shrills you should never hear as a boy. An empty soul. So my mama, she sent me some pictures in an attempt to fill in the void. But seeing good times could sometimes be like what I can imagine it would be like, living in hell, but hallucinating that you hear sickling noise. 13 summers. It helped me see exactly what I was feeling rather than just feeling it. It's kind of like being in the forest, not knowing you in the forest because you just see a tree in front of you. Right. But if you was to look from the above point of view, like, damn, I'm in a big forest. You begin writing, and by the time you know it, you look like, oh, that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? It's grief, it's anxiety. You be able to identify rather than just feeling. Creative writing or creative anything, release, creative expression is a form of therapy. It's a therapeutic tool. Like I wish when they taught us how to write, they taught us what to write about as well, like the powers of writing. We don't learn the powers of writing until maybe high school, and probably not even then. Like some people don't never learn, you know what I'm saying? And so
I think that's the thing about the strikes me when we're out there and we're talking about the youth. The young people that I see around the open mics, the 17 to 20-year-olds. There's a program here in Rockford called Lit Up. Lori Beachgrass, we've talked about her on the show
Auburn
a little
High
bit.
School.
Auburn High School. 20 years she ran this program, taking kids in 6th grade and teaching them spoken word, the value, like kind of what you were talking about, most of the power behind the words. Words matter. And the power behind those words. She had those kids for 6 years. A couple of them performed last night at the Slam. And I think the thing is, if the youth is where the change happens, everything is generational. I don't care if it's social, political, whatever it is. It all starts in that household in the morning with dad coming home from work. It was dad or mom coming home and imparting that racism, sexism, whatever on the children. Art gives us the power to be able to do that and help change that with the youth, but it also gives us the power to show the parents that, hey, y'all need to pull your head out of your ass and you need to do this work, you know?
Nice.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And like for the longest, I tell people the only set age group of people that I don't have patience when it comes to teaching is like more so like adults like us. Because I think, and again, it may be out of my like ignorance, you would call it that, but it's just like, but once you get to that place of an adult, when I say adult, I'm thinking like past 26, so that's when your brain's fully developed.
At
it's
25,
like, you got to do the work yourself to some extent. But I think for kids, there's such a, I would say, blank canvas, and if not a blank canvas, they got a little like shitty outline of like what they think they're going to be and all that. When you think about art through words like that, it's such an effective art form because like with music, when you think about like maybe beat production or metal, you said you're at a metal concert and all that, a lot of these art forms, they speak in a way without audibles. It's just the sound you're listening to, and that gives you free space of like, what does this sound saying to me? With poetry, you're getting the words. So what I'm saying is like what I'm meaning, you're hearing that.
Right.
When
I was a trauma outreach specialist for Brook Road United Methodist Church in Rockford for the Community Healing Resource Center at the time, I ran creative writing classes specifically for adults. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what you said is true. The youth are the future. But what happens when the parents continue to give them counterproductive coping mechanisms because they never learned it? And so forget how bright the student was in class. By the time he's in high school, the mom or the dad has belittled their greatness because they only knew how to think and cope with the way that they do it. So as this flower blooms and blossom, he or she now becomes the mom. What I had set out to do was teach people about these coping mechanisms and through art too. So I do art. Like my first love, when I fell in love with writing, I fell in love with art as well. And what I learned with doing art with people who claim they can't draw a straight line, so I do these different exercises where I unlock that self-doubt of what an art is. Because last time I checked, the Bible starts off by saying you were made in the image of God. And the only evidence of God is creativity. If you read the Bible, the only evidence of God is creativity. And so you're telling me you're not an artist. You're a creator. Once I get them to sit down and do art, it was never how good the art piece. It's just like writing. It's never how good. We could never subjectively say that was a great poem. Because if that person got up there and screamed and yelled the word great, great, great in different tones, he did his job because he wanted us to feel a certain thing. So with that being said, art is the same way. So what I was able to accomplish with adults was get them to sit down, do art. And once they did art, they realized that they took a break from their stresses. They weren't thinking about being a father or a mother. They weren't thinking about their job. They set aside time to do something productive that expressed their soul. And by the time they got done, they was like, that felt like therapy. So now when they see their son doing art and he's drawing, and now they like, I'm gonna respect that space. Even though his room a mess, even though he just got in trouble, I'm gonna respect that space because I learned it.
You're right. Adults get locked into a certain way. They become unteachable. And I love how you said that, because you're breaking down that defense and you're putting them into a situation where they're open to being teachable again. And the other thing I like that you said, there's so much. You guys are filling my head right now. I'm just going to tell
Me
you.
too.
Talk.
But the thing is, when you say straight line, people say that to me. I'm no good at art. I say, I guarantee you 10 out of 10 people, if I say draw a cat, they might think it's a shitty drawing of a cat, but I guarantee you I'll be able to look at it and say, I know that's a cat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey,
Period.
James, I got a question for Moosa, because I'm pretty sure this wasn't a misspeak. I've heard you say multiple times, instead of activist or artist, you say artivist.
I do.
What's up with that?
So I was tired of like explaining, I'm an activist for this, that, and the third, because I advocate for a lot, right? But I wanted people to say like, I'm leading with art. So when I was incarcerated, I have to say this because the viewers don't know, I was incarcerated from the age of 14 to the age of 27. And so I did a total of 13 years. I would still be incarcerated right now if they had it their way. But thanks to the governor, he commuted my sentence and I'm here. Needless to say, when I was inside, my partner at the time, Jessica Helsinger, she had wrote me a poem and she had the word heartivist in it. And so when I seen that, I was like, damn, heartivist is crazy, because that's who she is. She leads with her heart. She's also an artist. And so in just discussing that, the word artivist was born. When I came home, it was the best way to describe me, because it's like I do art as a breathing mechanism. Like I'm art. I write raps, I draw for a profession though. Like I'm a professional drawer, like artist, portraiture, however you want to say it. And then I do spoken word. And I also get paid to do activism work. So it's like I'm an artivist. Like I'm going to lead with art, but it's going to tell you something about the social injustices that we face, because why waste time? Why waste time when I got the stage,
The interesting thing is, you mentioned, Moosa, about a guy getting up there and just shouting and doing it. Speaking in our authentic voice, we can always do us better than anyone can do us. No one else can do King Moosa like King Moosa here, or Aubrey Barr, or James Hamilton. You speak from a place of authenticity. We talked a little bit about the Rockford community, and I know on this show I've talked a little bit about the art community here. Can you, Aubrey, tell us a little bit about Rock Island, and then Moosa talk about Rockford after that? That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, like a lot of my work the last 10 years has been strictly Rock Island, the Quad City area, and all that. And it's an interesting pace. I tell people all the time, like, I kind of feel like a fish out of water when it comes to like poetry, because I have all these friends globally who do poetry and all that, from like the West Coast to East Coast to Midwest. These poets had creative communities specifically with poetry that they grew up around. They knew the said game of poetry and all that, whereas I didn't really know that because I didn't grow up with that. The first poets I was exposed to was Nas, Luda, Missy Elliott. Like we know about like the classic poets like Langston Hughes and all that, but as a kid, they didn't really speak. They spoke to my world, but didn't speak to my world in the present moment. So like in the Quad Cities, our art space is different in the sense of like, people always say like we're years behind where certain places are. Like where you guys are at right now and what you guys are building, that's what we're trying to get in the Quad Cities. Witness when you guys went to our open mic, what was it, like last month or
a couple of weeks back, I featured down at, what was the name of the place again?
Skylight Luxury Lounge.
Yeah, Skylight Luxury Lounge.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, yep.
Great poetry crowd. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, shout out to Skylar. That's my homegirl who runs the first wine lounges in the Quad Cities, and the fact that it's in Rock Island, my hometown, is really awesome. But like that place specifically is one that's been really kind of seeing what we've been setting up culture-wise and helping us support creating this poetry culture. Because like outside of that, the poetry culture was like, and I got to give credit to where credit's due, my homeboy Chris Britton, who teaches poetry from like a hip-hop perspective, battle rap perspective and all that. He's the one who really influenced me to do what I'm doing now. So he's one of the guys who kind of are set apart from what I'm about to say. But besides him, a lot of the art institutions are usually like just older white folks, ones that are super detached from culture. Just noticing like that's kind of like how our art culture is, having spaces that we kind of create that are like, that are inclusive at the end of the day. They're going to be inclusive. We're not going to say like this person doesn't belong to this, because that's, what's the point of that? We're playing the same game as the ones above us are, but it's like, it's ran by people who know the culture and who have been underrepresented. Like those people, whether it be people in the African diaspora that we have come on as like teachers and all this, creates a space where like it's not really been seen in the Quad Cities, where like we have artists who do art as a profession Because that's another thing. People still don't understand how I do art as a profession, because the Quad Cities is one of those places
Yeah.
like you go there to be a teacher or work as an engineer at John Deere or something. So in the Quad Cities where we're from, we're actively kind of like really doing a lot of grassroots work, honestly, and building what we're building under the understanding that like radically these places that are above us, whether it be like this art institution here or here, as much as they're about arts, they're not down on the ground with us, you know. In the community we're setting up, we're building from the ground up. You know, I'm grateful to have an amazing team of people who came from Rockford, who live in the Quad Cities, who are from Grand Rapids. We're just building this thing amongst ourselves, and it takes time, you know. But when it's there, it's there, you know. So it's really awesome to see where the Quad Cities is at in that regard, you know, and see where we're kind of growing.
Yeah.
So, Moosa, you were born in Rockford?
I was born in Rockford.
So you're here for 13 years. You go away, you come back home to Rockford. Talk a little bit about how the scene has changed. Yeah, in that time.
Like, I grew up in Rockford, when it was like, at least from I can only speak from my perspective, because I would be lying if I told you anything other than Rockford that I didn't know about. So coming up, it was very hostile environment. It was different. We had something called the waterfront, and every time I went to the waterfront, it always got shut down after a fight. Like at the end, it was always some big fight or something, and that reflected how the Rockford scene was coming up. It was a lot of young violence happening a lot. I never been to the schools was crazy from Aubrey in the east. It was different. It was very, very loud with violence, I would say. I came home to Rockford's most violent year on record, and that was 2020. That summer, I think we had 36 homicides, which was the bloodiest year in Rockford history. And I could say this, since then, we've turned it around. I was a part of the Rockford Area's Art Council for a second and their cultural plan, and I was on a board, and I was able to give some good advice, because when I first came home, I did a lot of work in Chicago. They were seeking me out, so I always got calls to come and perform. They embraced me as their own. And so what I started to see in Chicago was like, man, art is something big. Like it could take us somewhere. So my goal was to bring like the programs that I was doing in Chicago to Rockford. But coming back to Rockford, I realized there was a culture of poets that was here. All that happened is I opened my eyes more to what was happening. And so I discovered the Inscape Collective. You know, I started seeing things that was happening at 27 and Luna. I saw things happening at Norloft. And I'm like, oh, there's a culture of poets, and I became a part of that culture, started going to events and started performing.
And hosting.
And now I host an open mic night every month. What I remember being on a board, and where I still would say is that, yes, Rockford is amazing. I think that other cities can look at Rockford and say, oh, that's how you catapult your artists. That's how you put them on a pedestal. We keep throwing events. There's an event now at Sheila's Daiquiri that happens called Snaps and Laughs. Right. So everybody is embracing these poets, and it's a hot ticket. So with that being said, my next step is finding out how can we compensate these poets for their expertise.
Yeah.
So when I was on the Rockford Area's Art Council, and I was on another board, every time I'm on a board to put on an event or whatever, I'm speaking for the artist that's not in the room. Because the first thing that happens, they say, oh, can you go and get such and such? Can you go get Savvy Magoo to come and perform? And I'm like, yeah, I can go get him, but not for free. I won't go and get him for free. I won't call him and say, hey, you think you could take some of your time out? And yeah, I'm on this board who has a budget, but they want you to come for free. Right. I'm not with that. So now I'm saying, how do we foster economic growth to those who I say deserve, because you put 10,000 hours into your craft and people are asking you to spend time with them at their establishment? I think you deserve to be paid for that.
Yeah. Wow. Hallelujah.
I mean, I could tell you that's a great segue, because that's something that I want to talk about. That was one of the first things that where Aubs and I connected was you move through your poetry career and you start out at open mics, you get a couple of features, you go out, people start putting your face on the poster. Listen, I don't know one artist, poet, whatever they are, that's greedy. And I know a lot of them that undervalue themselves. And the thing is that we've had a lot of discussions about, going places and learning a lot about contracts and making sure that you're getting money out, because it is important. So Wisconsin, where I come from, Milwaukee, behind as far as that goes. There is not a lot of features there that are paying, and when they are definitely below market value. Right. And it's something that we're trying to change. Discussions that we've had on the show here, I think the difference is in what's happening in Rockford is this, and Rock Island, the scenes are being built by the artist from the ground up.
Right.
Yeah.
And in Milwaukee and a lot, even up in Green Bay and some of the other cities that I frequent a lot, the clubs and the promoters are putting it together. And of course, they want to put food on their table too, but they're coming at it from a different paradigm. They're going, I got electric bill, I got this, I got door, I got staff. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that too, Aubs, about kind of...
Absolutely. You know, I've seen all angles of it, so I definitely speaks to that. You know, for me personally, I think it wasn't until like my year 6 or 7 into poetry where I started to kind of like be like, I'm getting booked pretty regularly now, where like this is starting to feel like a job because like I got to call up days for my job at the time. Like, and like, you know, around that time, I was having conversations with people in the Quad Cities about like art and making that you're living and all that. A lot of artists are there to do it as hobby. They're okay with like, okay, we'll do this like $50 gig or $100 gig and be okay with it, which is cool. But they got to understand that you're setting the precedence for everybody else behind you too, right? When you do that, because when you let them sell you for like $50, they're gonna come up to me and think like, oh well, we got $50. I'm like, no, this. You gotta add a little bit more to that, you know. Right. There's an importance to understanding your value and all that. But if I'm the one who's being reached out to for this service and I'm just giving myself away for it for free at the expense of these things that I do, I'm putting myself in a place where I'm locking myself in a survival mode that I don't even lock myself into. When you're in survival mode, it puts you in two different roads where like you create in that, but you're creating with the means of like, I need to make money. So then like your creativity kind of dilutes from there because like you're creating with the desperation of like, okay, I just need to get this, so I need to create that. You shouldn't create out of survival mode in that sense. Or it puts you in the path of like where you create an authentic way of like, okay, I understand that I need to make something, but we're going to put the art first and all that. But, you know, I understand that these creatives, they do it as a career. They take their time, energy to do this. So it wouldn't feel right in my spirit being someone who puts out that same like, oh, I deserve to get paid, but I have people come here and not get paid. Like I don't think that's how you form like good long-standing relationships. I'm not saying relationships are made off the capital part, which is like, you know, that's the balance, you know. It's like playing that game.
It's reciprocation though.
It is.
Yes, that's literally what it is.
Like you said a couple things. Like when I'm behind doors, like and I'm on these boards, some people won't know I worked with the Rockford Area Arts Council. They won't even know. Like, oh, damn, you was a part of the cultural plan? You won't know. You won't know that I was trying to get into Aubrey Middle School. And I couldn't because of redlining. And then, red tape. Importance of what I'm saying is that we set the precedent, especially when you're the person, like they respect you and you're going to tell me that you didn't speak up for an artist when, you know, they said, oh, do we have to allocate money for that? Yes. You know, I'm saying yes. And if they speak too fast and we're just going to have this person come, he'll do it for free. I say, no, that's not right. How about gas, food? Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We're not asking for some crazy amount of like, oh, I'm the biggest rapper in the world, pay me thousands of dollars. I'm saying reciprocation because I'm doing this. You came to me. I thought it was a dope idea, but me thinking it's a dope idea still takes me spending money to get there. So just reciprocation is all that we ask for as artists.
You know, the interesting thing about it is how, Moosa, what you just said, you might not even know that I'm on the board or that I'm involved with this or I was trying to get into there. The artists, the creatives that I know that are doing the work that we're talking about right now, none of us are looking for credit for that.
Not even looking for credit.
None. That is the give back. And yet sometimes so hard. Because let's face it, we're artists, so we feel maybe a little more than your average bear.
No question.
And sometimes, you know, that disrespect will come through or something doesn't go. How do you deal with that?
I think it's picking and choosing what battle to fight. I think some disrespect, I take it and I keep going and I just remind myself no matter how big I get, I still get disrespected. And I'll say this. Yes, I have the artist bag that gets discriminated against or disrespected, but I'm a black guy in America. I often get disrespected or belittled. As an artist, that happens. So sometimes I have to speak up and risk not having that paid gig or risk, you know, not being part of that no more because I was like, I got to say something right here. And there's other times where it's greater if I shut up and I wait and then I get people involved that needs to be involved, and I get the win. It makes me understand there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of narrative change that needs to happen still. Yeah. So when things like that happen, it's a reminder that we need to put more stock into what an artist means. And the only way to do that is to set the precedent. So put some respect on our name, put some respect on our craft. But there's weight into being an artist, man. And then there's weight to speaking on things. Sometimes even speaking on things can cost you friendships. Speaking on certain things can make people look at you like, I don't like this guy no more. He too radical. You lose friendships over being too radical or having certain
They
political
want you
views.
to stay in the box.
So like that's the martyr of Moosa. Is like I'm an open book. I walk my truths everywhere I go. Sometimes people attach to me. Sometimes people repel from me. But I'm going to continue to be this vessel. I feel like if I only live once, you're going to know exactly why I was here.
Yeah.
If anything stop you, don't let it be you. Still go stump in my felony boot. Love me lately, been in hell in these truths. Yesterday ate till my belly meat bruised. Eat young and eat, yeah, that'll be dude. Me, yeah, I took that shit to NY, and I feel alive anytime my pen dies. Hip hop can't die. This shit in my insides, and I will not stop, will not fold. I'm locked in. God got stock in my soul. Him versus him, I'm topping my lows. Getting to know discipline, that girl's so cold. Learn to write history, might never get old. Yeah, you might never get old. This late night writing, this my Letterman flow. Could never hate minds, I see heaven in bro.
To be an artist is to be a prophet, I'm looking at that strictly as like a spiritual, not rooted in any dogmatism. That's something that I've always told myself as a creative, like you're playing this role where like you're the one delivering these messages through creativity as a sense of warning, foreshadowing what's to come. And like, that doesn't just look like what it does at a mic. It looks like what you do at these meetings and all this. And to kind of answer your question and kind of piggyback Kxng and what he said, I've learned to kind of handle a sense of nuance when it comes to like addressing that disrespect or dismissiveness as a creative. Cause like I know for the longest, because of like the family I grew up in, my mom is the world alderman right now. Nice. My uncle's on the school board. He's been on the school board for about 3 terms now, and he's running for mayor. And he also works as a correctional officer. So like I've always grew up in a family that like serves community. That's an honorable thing always, but I think sometimes in the context of my upbringing, I also saw from like a place of like people pleasing, in the sense of like, if I'm wrong, I keep my mouth shut and kind of tell myself, turn the other cheek and all that. But, even the irony of that, when we hear the turn the other cheek from a theological perspective, when that was said by Jesus and all that, he meant that after you get hit on your left cheek and the right cheek, that's you telling yourself that you're on equal ground as a person who's trying to like treat you like dirt. That's what it is. So for me, I think now just kind of being in my place of leadership, like Moosa was saying, like I've learned, because I have people who are looking at me now, I've learned how to handle things in a way where I let people know if I see disrespect, I let people know that I've seen it, but I'm not crazy about it. I'm always going to communicate it in a confrontational, healthy way of like, hey, I noticed this made me feel some type of way, and I don't like that, so we're going to have to stop that. And if it continues, that means you don't respect my personhood, and we can just stop this. I don't take it personal anymore. I just take it for face value of like, okay, this happened more than once, and as face value, you just are comfortable with this. I'm not going to take it as personal. That's a reflection on you, but like I know how to move out of that, because I think as a creative, I've been big on like not acting out of victimhood, especially as a creative. I realize, you're kind of saying this earlier, if I'm a creator, it's because I'm given this gift by a creator, God, universe, whatever you want to call this being that we don't really have a definite name to. We just know it's a being that gives us something. When I recognize that, it's like, oh, I'm worthy of respect too. We all do the equal respect. And if that's to be known, I got to let you know, like, hey, I'm not going to handle this because you think that I'm this, and the other, because you have all this capital and believe your amount of money is going to like make me act subservient. It's like, no, we got to be able to walk in a sense of power of letting people know, like, out of love and all that, we stand on the same ground, and I'm not going to go for any of that.
And gauge our responses back. For me, it was training myself. I'm responsible for my second thought and my first action. My first thought, generally going to be pretty bad. I'm just going to throw it. If they come at me like that, that first thought is exactly what, But I've learned to be measured, and even if the distance between that first and second thought is quite a while, it is the most important thing I do. And then the distance from there to that first action, because like you said, I'm an example to the people that are coming behind me in the creative community or the community, whatever. They're looking to me to see, how did he react to that? I freak out. Guess what? They're freaking out. But if I'm cool, calm, and collected, so are they.
Right.
I wanted to bring up one thing, because I know we got another common thread that's not the common thread that I brought up in the beginning. But when we were eating lunch, we talked a little bit about the theater, and then we haven't had anybody else on the show that we did that. I did a play last year. So I'm from Wyawega, which is the hometown of Robert Bloch. He wrote Psycho. The play was essentially a talent show from 1955 where Robert Bloch was the judge and the murder happened and stuff. But I got to play a 1959 beat poet.
Okay.
And I know you, Moosa, were telling the story about how you got to, it's kind of a poetry, and Aubs, you had your poetry thing. You guys want to talk a little bit about that and give the dates for when your performances are?
Yeah, so I do a lot around healing is crime prevention. Gotta say it like that because that's how I end up getting into theater. While I was incarcerated, we created a program called the Kxng Writing Team, and it was hell trying to get that started, but nonetheless, through sheer will and God, we created a space for individuals to be able to start writing scripts. And from writing scripts, we were able to get on stage and perform these, right? What happened for me in front of my eyes was like, I saw individuals who didn't act ever a day in their life get on stage, do something they never did, but then the unique part was kind of like the people in the audience, they started to see solutions to their own problems through the play because somebody had took the time to write it out and come up with a solution on how they could have did that same action that day that led them in prison or whatever the case may be. We don't just show that, we also show a solution based in real time on how this could have went. Nonetheless, this was like a therapeutic rehabilitative tool, theater was, and it gave us an opportunity to do poetry. So fast forward now, this theater group went from Kxng Writing Team to now called Mud Theater Project. Look into Mud Theater Project. Theater is spelt with the R-E at the end rather than the E-R. And you'll see there's a Searching for Justice play that we do where I actually get a chance to be the lead, Amiri Clark. It's amazing. It's talking about school to prison pipeline.
Yeah. So like, it's funny. My kind of jumping into theater, like play that I found myself in doing this summer was like my first play ever. But I think just like obviously with the art of spoken word, we play off those elements and all that so well. But my brother Curtis Lewis. I almost said Curtis Jackson.
50 Cent.
50 Cent.
My brother 50 in the building.
Curtis
Oh,
Lewis,
my.
yeah. Curtis Lewis. So this is my brother. I've known him since high school. He went to college for like playwriting and acting and all that.
Nice.
In I think Carbondale, I believe, or SIU.
SIU, yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He's actually got a building, 2 buildings right now where he's opening up the first play theater and all that by a black creative in the community, you know.
Beautiful.
But for the last 8 years, he's kind of like, we've kind of been in on and off conversation through my poetry career, and he's always had in his head of like, I'm gonna have that brother do like one of my plays and all this, you know. And everything kind of 8 years later has kind of come to fruition with this one, you know, was my first play and all that. Our next showing of it is the 6th and 7th, but I really enjoyed it for multiple reasons of just like doing something different that kind of informed my poetry, you know, because I think like being someone who in the last 10 years, I've been involved in the art as an MC, as a battle rap MC, and also with theater and storytelling, and all these things have kind of like informed each other, you know.
Right.
All these different art forms have kind of informed how I write poetry, how I perform it, you know, so just being in theater, it was an opportunity to kind of get into the skin of something that I didn't write, first of all, learning how to memorize something that I didn't write, but also integrating some of my poetry in some parts, because like we would have conversations where Curtis, he's super open to ideas, so I'd hear like a part of our play and be like, I could fit in a poem here. He'd be like, hey, could you do a poem here? And kind of integrating that, you know, so it really kind of influenced how I did art more, and like how to live in the skin of something I didn't
Somebody
write.
else's character,
and kind of
yeah.
like and align myself with it,
It's
you know.
so fun.
It's
That's
super
the
fun.
funnest thing to do ever.
What I
Yeah.
experienced with it was, so get to that last night, and the people that you've grown accustomed to seeing every day or a couple times a week or whatever, when them productions end, you like all go your separate ways.
yeah.
It was so sad.
Yeah.
I was so
yeah.
sad. I
You
was
build a
like,
family quick, yeah.
it was, and it
yeah.
was like, I said, so what do you guys do now? Are we gonna like get together next week and have a cheeseburger? And they're like, no, we kind of all go. And I'm like, I was not ready for that. That emotional connection there
Yeah.
was really.
Well, and I had that, James, when we did the West Side Showrooms Clown Bar.
Yes, we have
Oh,
both
yeah.
performed as clowns. Poetry.
I missed that. I think I had shows at the same time or something.
Yeah, it was.
remember.
I mean, we had a discussion with the ladies the other day. The makeup was greasy.
It was
It
greasy
was very
makeup.
slippery. Yeah. So before we get to the common thread between you guys, what I'd like to do is give each of you a last word. So, you know, if you had something that you were planning on saying when you knew you were going to be on the radio, or just something that comes up, give each of you a couple of minutes to just throw out the last word, and then we'll do the common thread, and we'll get you out of here. Let's start with you, Moosa.
For sure. Well, If I could say one thing again, I'll double down on. I feel like healing is a crime prevention tactic. It's not just not invested in as a tactic to prevent crime. Instead, we have a society that likes to blame, that likes to say they're the reason our environment is the way it is, and it's violent because of these young black and brown kids and these poor white kids, and this is what's wrong with our culture. And then I'm of the mind of root cause. I'll say it like this: the reason why I'm about the root cause, and I think that healing will stop a lot of crime, because heal people don't kill people. Let's start there. And then it's like this: what's happening with our society, I can sum it up in this analogy. If I went to the doctor and I told the doctor my head hurt, and the doctor gave me Tylenol, and I went home and I took the Tylenol and I went to sleep, and I woke up and my head was still hurting, and I went back to the doctor because it hurted so bad. And he was like, oh, the Tylenol didn't work? Okay, I'll just give you something stronger. And I'm happy, like, yes, I need this stronger. And whatever is the next highest dosage, I take that and I say, oh, I feel better. And I go to sleep and I wake up and my head's banging again. Then I go back and see a different doctor, because that doctor, something about the way he's responding to my pain isn't helping me long term. Then I go to this other doctor and the doctor says, let's do some tests. And they do this test and they discover that there's a tumor in my brain that's growing, and the way that it's growing is causing pain. And then they treat the tumor. Then I no longer have the pain after the tumor is taken out. I correlate that to the prison system. These incidents where I harm you or you harm me because I don't have and I take yours, or I'm hurt and I'm harming and I woke up and I don't know what to do with harm other than to live who I am because I'm living harm. I only could be who I am. The society and the powers that be, what they do is they say, here's a Tylenol in the form of incarceration. Go get locked up and do some time. And then he comes home and he does another crime because he's still hurting. And then they say, here's even harsher punishment. We're going to give you more time than we gave you before because you did the same thing again. And so now they're punishing the outcome of a harm rather than treating the root cause of that harm. So in healing is crime prevention, I pray that one day there's legislation that pours more money into our community where we see you as a teacher. We see Paul Savvy Magoo as a teacher. We see you as a teacher, because when you're teaching a fifth grader and you're teaching a high school kid that healing is the way to go, and you're teaching them coping mechanisms, they can identify their emotions. I grew up all the way till I was 30 years old when I first saw a therapist. Wow. I thought I was feeling something that I wasn't. Wow. I thought anxiety was the feeling. Because I was like, oh yeah, I'd be anxious. And she like, why do you say that all the time? Then I started breaking stuff down, and she was like, that's grief. And I was like, wow. Oh, so imagine if I knew what I was feeling when I was feeling a thing, then I could have treated it. So what I'm getting at is we pour more into healing each other, man, more into loving each other. I promise our environments will start to reflect who we are. Right now, it's reflecting who we are. And that's every community around the country where there's people that's hurt. They don't know why they hurting. They don't know what they feeling. Just a whole bunch of societal things that oppress people. And then you walk around with a feeling, and you only could be the feeling. And those look like the outcomes that we see. And what I'm saying is that the judge shouldn't be the person judging this incident. It should have started way before the judge. It should have been way before the judge, where we treated the root cause so we don't have as much. So if I leave y'all with anything, y'all remember me for saying healing is crime prevention, because that's what I'm going to die about.
Man. Boys.
Let's go.
Yeah. No kidding.
I usually don't have time to write. And I finally got time to write. The first thing he wrote was baby blooms backwards, biting brass bells, boastfully barring about bravery. I said, boy, don't you think you being a bit much? Usually when I start these off, I'll say something along the lines of, my name is Kxng Moosa, and I'm a hip-hop artist, and at the age of 14, I was directly impacted. Every single time I utter those lies, I'm met with stares of admiration. You wonder why the lie. Thinking back as far as I could remember, I remember entering this illuminated stroke of God, always off balance, void of any masculine match. I had no rhyme to my reason, no reassurance of my resilience, the man of my mannerisms and moves, that DJ to my groove. All the while, my curiosity was being held captive in Dixon, Illinois. And here's where the lie lies. See, if I was to proclaim at 14 I was directly impacted by this system, then I'd be capping. Because when you black, like high blood pressure, heart disease, and poverty, prison also seems to be hereditary. So as a child with an incarcerated parent, I had a 3 in 4 chance of ending up around 3 or 4 friends with that gun in my hand, or around a strange man wearing orange skins, aggressively waving monadnock hardwood at other grown men, yelling, "I need you closer." I mean, so close that your nuts is in his hand, so much so that dick to butt has become their slogan. Meanwhile, I'm 412 miles away from the only love I've ever known. And see, mother, these are the experiences I pulled from trying to convince you that I've grown. Because didn't patriarchy command that you not a man until you gotta do it on your own? Or is it that moment we learned the art of suppression? Or maybe it's measured by the amount of women we can have soft from erection. See, these are all questions I wish I can call up my father and ask him. But these all will remain unanswered, for 2 years ago, I laid eyes on my father for the first time as he laid in a casket. Poison is patriarchy, people.
Yeah, but like just to piggyback off like what Moosa was saying, like I think those spaces of healing and all that, one thing that I've grown to kind of learn over the last few years, you know, just as I've kind of built this like village around me of people who kind of align in their visions and all that. And then, you know, all the things that happened at this present moment, like it was all kind of like this random person years ago who was like a tarot reader. They prophesied that all these things would happen and that a village would build up around me and like we would do what needs to be done. And for me, it's realizing that these things that we see as possibilities and dreams of having spaces where communities healed and all that, it may come out of me just being kind of an optimistic realist of just realizing that like, the people we kind of depend on, they've shown over and over and over and over and over that like that's not their priority
Agenda
you
at
know?
all.
Yeah.
It's not their agenda, you know, and I think it's been like that forever, you know, when the Roman rule did its thing centuries ago and all that with like using religion as a political thing, you'd see the desert fathers and desert mothers and those who held true communal wisdom, they would leave these places to be like, okay, let's start our own thing and build this the way it should be with like artists, said therapists, said like people in the building this thing where we're all centered around like the goodness of each person in the village. And for me, like I grow more and more in kind of like my radical thinking of realizing that like that's not built in these higher spaces. And this comes from someone who like got their degree in education and worked in schools for 10 years. Like as a black educator, as much as we say we need black educators in school, we're not ready to treat them right. I've been at 5 different schools the last 10 years. It's always been the same thing. You know, I'm diluted to just this person who's there to fill in the space of these angry kids and be an authoritarian who also is pulled from their classroom to mop floors. So before going on her date, my friend asked me what she should get him as a gift. I told her to get him flowers. To which she responded, "You don't think that's weird? Like, you sure he won't feel funny? Be offended?" And I thought back to the poem I wrote about my pops and how he was a gardener who learned how to take care of seeds with no father to show him how to till the land. His arms always felt like the safest home, so much that I would fake sleep on car rides home just to feel the comfort of him carrying me inside, up the stairs, and into my bed. There was also my 7th grade English teacher, Mr. McKissick, who brought me in on the last day of school to explain to me why I got a D- and give me a helping hand from the cliff of near failure, because he understood that grades didn't reflect who he saw me become before he passed away in 2012. I never got a chance to say thank you. I never told my pops thank you for providing memories that some brothers will never know, because if I'm honest, I think it'd be weird and feel funny. And in that moment, I'm reminded why we only receive our flowers when eyes are shut. You see, we are a culture who's made it practice to give worship to the dead, yet withhold eulogies while they're living. Anoint forehead with kiss at repast, praying it holds enough love to Lazarus' loved one's lips to a smile, cracking curse of caskets. I often think to myself, what if today is my last day? I often leave for friends' houses without saying I love you. Miss chances to embrace my sister as if I know when I'll see her again.
I speak to my brother in meditation with the same mouth that couldn't find words when I noticed his heart become a garden that stopped believing in rain. Left to water himself with buckets of fiery condemnation, told to find his own bandages and wrap his own wounds as if love be too much of a labor when it's really our ignorance of telling the difference between worship and roses. Believing it to be adoration lifted high above head when it's really acknowledging life in ones grounded in the same soil as you. Before her commencement ceremony, as one of the first black women aldermen of Rock Island, me and my mom took a picture together, and it was like time stood still, as if nudging my arm to embrace her a little closer, as a way to say, I'm happy to experience this moment with you. When these eyes become barren ground, scorched by fires that left me in ashes, please give me my flowers to remind me that these hands can still till the land, bloom something beautiful out of the brokenness, take care of roots connected to the source of life, with poems that pray in psalms, with a mind that meditates on all that is good, so I can tend my garden and give you your flowers before we are swallowed back into the belly of the earth. For this is not weird. And if it feels funny, that's just 'cause it's a love that can be given and received while we are still here. So I told my friend, yes, you should definitely give him your flowers while you still can. While you still can.
For me, I think my last word is just like, spaces like this, any grassroots spaces, like that's the way to build. Whether you're like a creative, building a creative community, you don't see support from those who are not looking at your way, don't take it personally. Just do what you're doing. That's what I've always operated on the last 10 years. And like, it's built what y'all saw when you came out to Rock Island. Like that was built over time.
Right.
Yeah, and you can feel the energy.
Culture there. Yeah.
Exactly. The fact that y'all know it, there's a lot of people in the Quad Cities where I'm from who don't even know about that still. And for me, like, I've grown okay to be like, it's okay who knows and doesn't know about this, because the fact that this thing is here and it's growing, that's all that matters. Because it's going to be one of those things where, like, we're able to, like, bring in creatives, and compensate them, economically support them and what they do, as well as kind of heal the students, being able to have kids and adults see creativity as trades and seeing it like as something that can be a thing. That's how you heal community and all that. So my final word is just like, build from the ground and be patient with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
My last word would go off of what you said, especially about, I want to throw the DOC in there, because when people get locked up, the Department of Corrections is a predatory institution. We charge 10 times for phone calls and communications to loved ones that could be providing support for people while they're incarcerated. 5 times for food and just basic comforts. And
we're using that as a profit center instead of just support.
Our country suffers from end stage capitalism.
It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah.
Who's incarcerated economically? What folk is incarcerated? The poorest.
Yeah.
Lyndon B. Johnson said it. Where poverty exists, crime will flourish. They know it. Like, everybody knows it. It's not a coinkydink. The people who are incarcerated are economically challenged. But then to take a person who's economically challenged, lock up the father, put the onus on the mother to have to come up with extra money when he was the breadwinner, and now she got to come up with extra money to pay for a phone call that costs her 10 times it would if he was just to call on his cell phone. That's ridiculous. And a honey bun costs 10 times as much or whatever. It's like, why does people who already don't got money, how are we taking advantage of folks who don't have to tell them that they have to pay more? I don't understand. So it's like over punishment. Like, since you did a mistake, your family has to pay more now. Like, your family is punished. That's not even real accountability. Now the families are suffering even more, which keeps the environment in more of a loop. So anyway, just to say, like, that's just bullshit.
It's the same. And you know what? It isn't even just the families. It's the incarcerated, the families, and the ripples start there. Through the community and through everything.
Yes.
I don't know about Illinois, but in Wisconsin, Department of Corrections is the most profitable business in the state.
Oh yeah, it's the country.
It's ridiculous. It's just. So the common thread, Paul Savvy Magoo, you want to take a guess at the common thread between the guests?
I told you this earlier. He won't tell me. But I said earlier that they're both activists. I think of both of you. You fill that space in my head, and you said no.
I think we've got a new word for that, anyways. I don't think
Artivist.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like that term.
it's
We're all
artivist.
using that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, please run it up.
Yep.
Yeah, we're both artists. I think I see an underlining one that you couldn't see. We both 33.
Oh,
We both 33.
dang.
We here at that year, man. 33 is
Yeah.
a special number, man.
No, it really is.
It really
There
is.
was no way I was getting there. I've got 10 fingers and I got 10 toes. So anything over 20, I'm not counting
Well, I'm
to
approaching
anyways.
twice your age. So there.
Yeah.
It's leadership in the communities, guys. It's leadership
Go,
in the
man.
communities.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I can look at your social media and I can see you out there. It's not pictures of yourself. It's pictures of the people that you are imparting wisdom to, that you're helping through. It's your sweatshirts that say healing is crime prevention.
Yes.
It's everything that we do every day that you guys are out there doing every day.
Aubs had a social media post the other day about we're building something here
Yeah.
Yes.
in Rock Island.
Yeah.
I remember that vividly. And I was like, wait, we're trying to do that in Rockford. He's
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah.
starts, though.
Yeah,
You know, that's
exactly.
the thing. Small communities, artists that are first responders, putting this together and building it from the ground up. Because I could tell you from the top down, it ain't working.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
And it won't.
No,
They
exactly.
disconnected.
No.
They
Right.
disconnected, and I'll say with what Glenn Martin said, man. The people that's closer to the problem is close to the solution. Oftentimes, we farthest from the resources. Let's work. We know what to
facts.
do. Let's do it.
With that, gentlemen, Aubrey Barnes, King Moosa,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much
you
for
for
coming
having
on
me.
Verse
this is
today. Paul Savvy Magoo.
Yeah.
Anything you
Amazing.
want to?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Like you.
Alrighty, for WBOM Full Service Radio, Mendelssohn Center for the Performing Arts, I'm James Hamilton. Peace out. We'll see you soon.
Peace, love, happiness.